The river looked calm that evening, like it was sleeping, but the air around it felt heavy and strange, as if something important was about to happen. People in the small town usually came here to relax after work, to breathe fresh air, or to sit and talk with friends. The river was always quiet, but it held a deep current under the surface, and everyone knew it was dangerous. Still, no one ever thought that a normal evening would turn into a nightmare. Sarah, a young woman 8 months pregnant, walked along the riverbank with slow steps, her hand gently touching her belly. She was not here to enjoy the view or to talk with anyone. She was here because she needed peace. Her life had been full of pain and loneliness lately, and the baby inside her was the only reason she kept going. Her husband had left her months ago, leaving her with nothing but fear and a small house she could barely afford. She had been crying in secret for weeks, trying to hide her sadness from her family and friends, but the loneliness was growing inside her like a heavy stone. That night, she thought the river would help her forget for a few minutes, but she did not know the river would almost take her life instead. The ground near the water was wet and slippery, and the moonlight made everything look shiny and dangerous. Sarah was walking slowly, thinking about the future, when her foot slipped. She tried to balance herself, but the earth gave way, and she fell into the cold water with a loud splash. Her body sank for a moment, and panic took over her mind. She tried to scream, but the sound came out weak and broken. The cold water hit her chest, and she could not breathe. She felt the river pulling her down like it wanted to swallow her whole. Her mind flashed with fear, my baby. I cannot lose my baby. Please, someone help me. She moved her arms and legs, but the current was too strong, pushing her away from the bank and dragging her deeper. The people nearby saw the fall and froze in shock. Some of them wanted to help, but they were scared. They knew the river could kill you in seconds, and no one wanted to risk their life. Sarah's body was shaking, her face turning pale, and her eyes were wide with terror. She tried to hold on to a small branch, but it broke under her weight. She screamed again, louder this time, but the sound disappeared into the night. Her heart was beating fast, and her lungs were burning. She was losing strength, and she could feel herself slipping into darkness. At that moment, a man arrived running toward the river. He was not an ordinary man. He was Rafik, the Mafia boss everyone feared in the city. People knew him as a powerful and cruel man, someone who never showed mercy. His name alone made people stop talking. He was known for violence, for controlling people with fear, and for doing things that no one dared to stop. But tonight, he was not thinking about power or control. He was not thinking about money or revenge. He was only thinking about a human life being lost in front of him. He had been walking near the river to clear his mind after a long day. He had just returned from a meeting where his men had argued, and he felt tired of the world. When he saw Sarah fall, something inside him changed. He did not hesitate. He ran to the riverbank without thinking about the danger. People shouted at him, "Don't go in. It's dangerous." But he did not listen. He took off his shoes, rolled up his sleeves, and jumped into the cold water with a loud splash. The river grabbed him immediately, pulling him down, but he pushed through the current. His muscles burned as he fought the water. He reached Sarah and grabbed her arm, holding her tightly as if he was holding his own life. Sarah's body was shaking, and she was crying. Her eyes were full of fear, but when she saw him, she felt a small spark of hope. She did not know who he was, but she knew he was saving her. Rafik pulled her toward the shore with all his strength. The water was heavy, and his body was tired, but he did not stop. He felt the baby moving inside Sarah's belly, and that thought gave him more power. He did not want to lose a life that was not even his. He felt something he had never felt before, fear of losing someone innocent. He pushed harder, and finally, he reached the bank. He dragged Sarah out of the water, laying her on the wet grass. He collapsed beside her, coughing and gasping for air. His heart was beating so fast that he felt like it would burst. Sarah lay there, shaking, with tears streaming down her face. She looked at him and whispered, thank you for saving me." Her voice was weak, but it carried a deep emotion. Rafik stared at her, still breathing heavily, and he realized he was alive too. He had risked his life without thinking. The people who watched were shocked. They had never seen Rafik do something kind. They had never seen him show weakness. But now, he looked like a normal man, afraid, tired, and human. The night was quiet again, but the silence felt different. It was filled with the truth that something had changed. Rafik looked at Sarah's face and felt a strange feeling in his chest. He could not explain it. He had saved a stranger, and it felt like his heart had opened for the first time in years. He helped her sit up and covered her with his jacket, but he could not stop thinking, who is she? Why does my heart feel this pain? He didn't know that the moment he saved her, he had also saved himself from a life of darkness, even if he did not realize it yet. The river had taken many lives before, but tonight, it had given someone a second chance. And it all started with a simple accident that changed everything, the moment when the Mafia boss saved a drowning pregnant woman, not knowing that she was his wife's friend. When Sarah finally stopped shaking and could breathe more calmly, she looked at the man who saved her, and the truth slowly began to enter her mind like a cold wave. She realized that she did not just fall into the river by accident, she was living in a life full of pain, and the river had almost taken her because she had been trying to escape her reality. She had no husband, no money, and no family support. The only person she had was her friend Lena, who had been helping her in secret for months. Lena had always been kind to her, always giving her hope, but Sarah felt she was becoming a burden. She felt she was weak, and she hated herself for being so alone. Now, lying on the wet grass, she looked at Rafik and whispered, I think I was meant to die tonight. Rafik looked back at her, surprised by the honesty in her voice. He did not know how to respond. He had never faced someone who was so close to death and still spoke with truth. His life had always been about power and fear, and he had never thought about death as something close to him. He was used to causing death, not preventing it. He sat beside her, still holding her hand, and said softly, You are not meant to die. You are still alive. His voice was low, and for the first time, he sounded human. Sarah's eyes filled with tears again, but these tears were different. They were not only from fear, they were from relief. She felt the weight in her chest become lighter. She looked at Rafik and asked, Who are you? He hesitated. He had been hiding his identity all his life, and he didn't want to be known as a man who saves people. He was afraid of what his enemies would say. He was afraid of being weak. But he could not lie to her. He said, My name is Rafik. Sarah's eyes widened. She had heard that name before. Lena had mentioned it many times, but always with fear in her voice. Sarah had never met him, but she knew he was dangerous. She had always thought of him as a monster. Now, she was looking into his eyes, and she saw a man who had just saved her life. She felt confused. She felt something inside her change. She could not hate him anymore. She could not fear him. She only felt a strange kind of gratitude. When Sarah returned home later, Lena was waiting at the door with a worried face. She had called Sarah's phone many times, but there was no answer. She had been panicking, thinking the worst. When Sarah finally walked in, wet and shaking, Lena rushed to her and held her tightly, crying. Where were you? I thought I lost you. Lena shouted, her voice filled with fear and anger. Sarah tried to calm her, but she could not tell her the truth yet. She was afraid of how Lena would react. She didn't want Lena to think she was weak or careless. She didn't want to worry her friend even more. But Lena's eyes were full of love, and she could see that Sarah was not the same. She looked into Sarah's eyes and asked, What happened? Sarah took a deep breath and said, I fell into the river. Someone saved me. Lena's face changed instantly. She looked confused and angry at the same time. Who saved you? She asked. Sarah hesitated, but she knew she had to tell the truth. She said, "It was Rafik." Lena's face went pale. Her hands began to shake. She had always known Rafik as a dangerous man, but she never thought he would be near Sarah. She had always been careful to keep her friendship with Sarah private, because she knew how risky it was. Now, she felt a new kind of fear. She said softly, "Rafik? The Mafia boss?" Sarah nodded, and Lena's eyes filled with tears again. "Why would he save you?" Lena asked, her voice trembling. Sarah did not know how to answer. She only knew that Rafik saved her because he felt something inside him that he could not explain. Lena looked down at her hands and whispered, "This is dangerous. This could ruin everything." Sarah felt a sudden fear in her heart. She realized that Lena was right. If anyone found out that Rafik saved her, it could become a huge problem. Rafik was a man who had enemies everywhere. People would use this story against him. And Lena, being his wife, would suffer too. She would be judged, threatened, and maybe even hurt. Sarah began to feel guilty. She felt like she had brought danger into Lena's life. She tried to apologize, but Lena stopped her. Lena said, "You did not do anything wrong. You are alive. That is what matters." But Lena's eyes were full of worry, and Sarah could see that she was hiding a secret. Later that night, Lena went to her bedroom and locked the door. She sat on her bed, crying silently, and she opened her phone. She called Rafik. She did not know what to say, but she needed to hear his voice. When he answered, Lena's voice shook. "Rafik, did you save Sarah?" Rafik was quiet for a moment. He felt his heart beat faster. He did not know why Lena was asking. He replied, "Yes. She fell into the river." Lena sighed deeply. "Why did you do it?" she asked. Rafik felt ashamed. He did not want Lena to know the truth, because the truth was that he did not know why he saved her. He only knew that he could not watch a pregnant woman die. He said, "I couldn't let her die." Lena listened quietly. She felt a strange feeling in her heart. She was angry, but she was also relieved. She had always feared that her husband would never change. She had always feared that he would never feel anything but anger and violence. But now, she heard something different in his voice. She heard compassion. She heard humanity. Lena whispered, "I don't understand. But I am grateful." She did not tell him that Sarah was her friend. She was scared that the truth would cause even more danger. She was scared that Rafik would feel betrayed. She was scared that he would react violently. So she kept the secret. She only said, "Just promise me you will stay away from her." Rafik agreed, but he did not know that. He was already connected to Sarah's life forever. That night, the city slept, but Sarah's life had changed. Lena's life had changed. And Rafik's life had changed too. The river had not only taken a life, it had also brought a truth that would not disappear. The moment when the Mafia boss saved a drowning pregnant woman, not knowing that she was his wife's friend, was now a secret that was slowly turning into a storm. After that night, Sarah tried to go back to her life, but she could not forget what happened. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the river, the cold water, and Rafik's strong hands pulling her to safety. She felt a strange mix of fear and gratitude, and she didn't know what to do with those feelings. She tried to talk to Lena, but Lena seemed distant. Sarah could feel that Lena was hiding something, and she was afraid to ask. She did not want to ruin her friend's life, so she kept quiet. Days passed, and Sarah's pregnancy grew heavier. Her body ached, and her emotions were like a storm. She needed support, but she had no one. Lena was busy with her own life, and Sarah did not want to bother her. She felt like she was alone again, like she was walking through life without anyone to hold her hand. One evening, Sarah received a message from an unknown number. It was a simple message, but it shook her to the core. It said, "Do not go near the river again." Sarah's hands began to shake. She did not know who sent the message, but she felt fear. She remembered the river, and she remembered the moment she almost died. She thought maybe someone was watching her. Maybe someone knew that she was the woman who was saved by Rafik. She did not know what to do. She wanted to tell Lena, but she was afraid. She was afraid that Lena would be hurt. She was afraid that Lena would be in danger. She decided to keep the message secret and to stay away from the river. But the fear stayed inside her like a dark cloud. She could not sleep. She could not eat. She could not focus on anything. She felt like her life was being controlled by someone she could not see. Meanwhile, Rafik could not stop thinking about Sarah. He tried to act normal, but his mind kept going back to the river. He kept asking himself why he had saved her. He had never done something like that before. He had never felt a need to protect someone who was not his own. He started to notice small things about Sarah. The way she cried quietly, the way she looked scared when she spoke about her future, and the way she always seemed to be alone. He felt a strange desire to help her, to protect her, to make sure she was safe. But he also knew that his life was dangerous. He knew that if he got close to her, it could cause problems for Lena. He knew that his enemies could use Sarah as a weakness. He knew that his wife would be hurt. So he kept his distance, even though it was painful. One night, Rafik's men came to him with news. They said someone had been talking about Sarah, and that the story of her being saved by Rafik was spreading. They warned him that people might use this information against him. Rafik felt a sudden anger rise inside him. He did not want anyone to hurt Sarah. He did not want anyone to use her life as a weapon. He decided to meet Lena and tell her everything. He wanted to confess the truth, even if it caused problems. He wanted to show Lena that he was changing, that he was not the same man anymore. When he reached Lena's house, he saw her sitting alone in the living room. Her face was tired, and her eyes looked like she had not slept for days. Rafik sat beside her and said, "Lena, we need to talk." Lena looked at him and said, "I know. I have been waiting." Rafik took a deep breath and said, "Sarah is in danger. People know about her. They might use her to hurt me, or they might hurt her to get to me." Lena's face turned pale. She whispered, "What are you saying?" Rafik continued, "I saved her, Lena. I saved her from the river. I did not know she was your friend. But now I know. And I can't stop thinking about her. I am afraid for her life." Lena stared at him, and she felt a mixture of emotions. She felt anger, fear, and relief. She was angry because Rafik had lied to her. She was afraid because she knew the danger. She was relieved because she finally knew the truth. She said, "Why didn't you tell me before?" Rafik looked down and said, "Because I was afraid. I didn't want to make you worried. I didn't want to show you weakness. I didn't want to lose your trust." Lena's eyes filled with tears. She said, "You don't have to be perfect, Rafik. You just have to be honest." Rafik felt a small tear fall from his eyes. He felt ashamed, but also grateful. He had never thought that honesty could feel like freedom. Lena then said, "We need to protect her." Rafik nodded. He said, "Yes. I will do everything to keep her safe." But Lena's voice was weak when she added, "You must also protect me. I am afraid too." Rafik held her hand and promised, "I will protect you. I will protect our family." That night, Rafik decided to take action. He ordered his men to watch Sarah's house and to keep her safe. He asked them to keep the information secret. He also asked them to find out who sent the warning message. He wanted to stop the danger before it could grow. Sarah did not know about this. She was still living in fear, trying to hide her worry from everyone. She was still thinking about the river and the cold water. She was still feeling alone. But she did not know that her life was now being watched by a powerful man who had saved her, and who was now willing to risk everything to keep her safe. The city continued to sleep, unaware of the storm that was building. The river continued to flow, quietly and calmly, hiding its danger beneath the surface. And in the middle of all this, Sarah's life became a connection between a mafia boss and his wife, a connection that could either destroy them or save them. The moment when the mafia boss saved a drowning pregnant woman, not knowing that she was his wife's friend, was no longer just a story. It was becoming a real problem, a real risk, and a real test of love and truth. The days that followed were heavy with fear and hidden feelings, and the air around Sarah's small house seemed to grow colder every night. She felt like she was living under a shadow, even though she didn't know who was watching her. She began to notice small things that made her heart beat faster: a stranger standing near the road, a car slowly passing her house, a quiet voice in the distance. She tried to ignore it, but she could not. Her fear became a constant pain in her chest. One evening, Lena visited Sarah. She brought food and tried to act normal, but Sarah could see the worry in her eyes. Lena sat beside her and said, "Sarah, I know you are scared. I want to help you." Sarah looked at her friend and felt tears in her eyes. She wanted to tell Lena everything, but she was afraid. She thought Lena would blame her, or that she would be in danger because of her. Sarah said, "I don't know what is happening. Someone sent me a message, and I feel like I am being watched." Lena held her hand and said, "You are not alone. I will help you." Sarah looked into Lena's eyes and saw something she had never seen before: a strong love and fear mixed together. Lena was scared for her friend, but she was also scared for her own life. She knew the truth now, and she knew that the truth could destroy everything. Lena decided to tell Sarah the truth, but she did not know how to say it. She took a deep breath and said, "Sarah, the man who saved you, he is my husband." Sarah's eyes widened, and she felt her heart stop for a moment. She did not know how to react. She had always feared Rafik, but now she had to accept that he was connected to her life. She felt a strange feeling inside her: fear, confusion, and a small spark of hope. Lena continued, "He saved you, but he did not tell me because he was afraid. He is trying to protect you, but he is also trying to protect me." Sarah felt tears fall down her face. She whispered, "Why would he protect me? I am just a weak woman. I am nothing." Lena shook her head and said, "You are not nothing. You are a person. You are carrying a life inside you. That is powerful." Sarah looked down and felt ashamed. She had always thought of herself as weak. She had always felt like she did not deserve kindness. But Lena's words made her feel something new: she felt that she mattered. Lena continued, "Rafik is changing. He is not the same man he used to be. He saved you because he could not watch you die. He told me he felt something he never felt before." Sarah listened carefully, and she realized that Lena was telling the truth. She could see the fear in Lena's voice, but she could also see hope. Lena said, "But we must be careful. If his enemies find out, they will use you to hurt him. They will hurt you to reach him." Sarah felt her body shake again. She said, "Then what should I do?" Lena looked at her with strong eyes and said, "We must leave the city. We must go far away. We must start a new life." Sarah felt her heart beat fast. She wanted to say yes, but she knew she could not leave alone. She had no money. She had no place to go. She had no one to help her. She felt trapped. Lena saw her fear and said, "I will help you. I will take you with me." Sarah felt a sudden warmth in her chest. She looked at Lena and said, "But what about your husband? What about your life?" Lena's eyes filled with tears. She said, "I will talk to him. I will tell him we need to leave too. I cannot live with fear every day. I cannot watch my friends suffer. I cannot watch my husband become a monster again." Sarah felt a small hope inside her. She felt that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for a better life. That night, Lena went to talk to Rafik. She found him in his office, surrounded by men who were loyal to him. Rafik looked tired, and his face looked older than his age. When Lena entered, he stood up and asked, "What is it?" Lena looked at him and said, "We need to leave." Rafik's face changed. He was surprised. He asked, "Leave? Why?" Lena said, "Because Sarah is in danger. Because I am afraid. Because I cannot live like this anymore." Rafik looked down and said, "I know. I have been thinking about it too." Lena's eyes widened. She asked, "Then why didn't you say anything?" Rafik replied, "Because I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to scare you. I thought I could handle it." Lena walked closer to him and said, "You cannot handle this alone. You need to choose." Rafik's voice became soft. He said, "I choose you. I choose our family. I choose to change." Lena held his hand and said, "Then prove it." Rafik nodded and said, "I will. I will leave this life. I will protect Sarah. I will protect you. I will protect our child." He looked at Lena and added, "But I need time. I need a plan. I need to make sure no one hurts you." Lena understood. She knew leaving would not be easy. She knew Rafik's enemies would not let him go easily. But she also knew that this was the only way to save their lives. The next day, Rafik arranged everything. He secretly paid for a safe house outside the city. He arranged new identities for Lena and Sarah. He made sure that his men would not follow them. He also made sure that his enemies would not suspect anything. Sarah was surprised when Lena told her about the plan. She felt a mix of fear and gratitude. She said, "I don't know how to thank you." Lena smiled and said, "You don't have to. Just promise me you will stay strong." Sarah nodded, and she felt a new strength inside her. The day they left was full of silence. Sarah carried her small bag, and Lena held her hand. They walked out of the city with heavy hearts, leaving behind everything they knew. Sarah looked back one last time and felt tears in her eyes. She whispered, "Goodbye." She did not know if she would ever return. As they drove away, Sarah felt a new kind of fear, but also a new kind of hope. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew that she was not alone. She had a friend who cared for her, and she had a man who had saved her life, even if he was dangerous. She thought about the moment when the Mafia boss saved a drowning pregnant woman, not knowing that she was his wife's friend, and she realized that life can change in 1 second. She realized that even in the darkest places, there can be a spark of light. She realized that the future was uncertain, but she was ready to fight for it.